Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. And this watch is an old favorite. Truth be told, I don't need another video of the new for 2015 Jaegar-LeCoultre Geophysic Universal Time, but I love this watch so much that I decided to share a little bit of space and reacquaint myself. And if you're seeing these videos for the first time on my channel, and this is your first impression, I want to make a good one. Now, of course, in 2014, Jaegar-LeCoultre relaunched the E158 Geophysic of 1958 as a modern-day model line. That first year's watch was the tripartite limited edition tribute to Geophysic. The next year, 2015, is when this watch, the Universal Time, and its companion, the True Second, debuted to turn Geophysic into a full model range. And I don't universally love the revived Geophysics, but this one, to me, feels particularly soulful and original, less like a revival watch and more like an original work. In terms of size in steel, it's 41.6 millimeters in diameter. It's 12 millimeters thickened from lug to lug to 48.6 millimeters with a 21 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. You can see on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, the strap is substantial, stiff, and unbroken in. Not being broken in, I have to pull it a little bit tighter, which is compressing my wrist and kind of warping your sense of scale. So just take a look down the barrel. You can see the distance between the edge of the lug and the edge of my wrist, and there's plenty of clearance. And so, especially once the strap is broken in, you'd be able to wear this on a wrist of 15 centimeters circumference, and my wrist once more is 16. It will fit under a cuff, so if you want to wear it as a dress watch, no problem. And of course, the original Geophysic was launched in 1958, the E158, and it was a heavy-duty, all-singing, all-dancing, water-resistant, anti-magnetic, shock-resistant chronometer watch that sat at the top of the JLC catalog with a price point so high that even in the U.S. market, it was sold as a Jaeger-LeCoultre fully jeweled, fully adjusted timepiece, when, for the most part, Jaeger-LeCoultre watches were sold as knockdown kits, adjusted and cased domestically in the U.S. because they were mid-market watches. The Geophysic was so expensive, it was imported into the U.S. whole with features like full adjustment, full jeweling that would result in very high tariff costs. Nevertheless, that watch was so special, JLC imported it as it was. This watch is more interesting to me than 2014's tribute to Geophysic because while that one is sort of a modern shadow of the old E158, this is very original. Between the deadbeat second, the lacquered metallic dial, and the universal time function, this feels like one of the few tribute to or revival family watches from the 2010s that really explored new ground. We had tribute to Deep Sea, tribute to Polaris, tribute to Geophysic, and the tribute to Geophysic, like the Deep Sea and the Polaris, felt like we were revisiting old themes. This is fresh. That said, the one element that is distinctly drawn from history is the case shape. Now, if you look at the original, of course, it's about 35.5 millimeters. It's nothing like this in scale, but the lugs broken out from the case band and their angular profile does feel like a little bit of a throwback. We have polish, we have satin. You can see that the lugs ride up the side of the bezel a little bit so we can have a bigger, broader, more prominent lug. We have JL branding on the crown. It is 50 meters water resistant, but it's a push-down crown, so don't swim with it. Out back, we have a unique movement. Caliber 7.72, never used in any other model, but we'll get to that in a moment. Taking a quick look at the strap, it's substantial. Not only do we have pull-tab spring bars so we can pop it off the case without tools, but JLC is smart about how it constructs its clasp. It's a friction-fit double fold, which is great, but there's a push button here, so you can push the button and remove the clasp from the strap without a tool, because what good is a quick-release strap if the strap is then stranded on the buckle? So JLC, assuming you're going to want to make a full swap, allows you to remove case from strap and strap from buckle for easy swapping tool-free. Taking a quick look at the strap, very impressive. Extremely large, rectangular, and symmetrical alligator leather. The rarest and most expensive cut you'll find on the beast. This is typically the belly of the beast, so to speak. Taking a look, it's a very, very intense black with a semi-gloss, a little bit of bolstering or stuffing. We've got a monotone stitch and a folded edge, calfskin on the bottom, no crimping, no gouging. Rolling around to the dial side, now it's beautifully done, and it works a little bit different than a conventional world time. So when I rotate you could see that unlike a conventional Louis-Coutier format world time, this one has the hand and the 24-hour reference ring moving at exactly the same direction and at a differential of speed. So we've got a 12-hour hand, and then we've got a 24-hour outer display. Here's what matters. Unlike a conventional JLC Louis-Coutier world time system, where you would normally put your city of reference down at the bottom, this city ring does not move. Instead, the world time reference ring moves, and there's two ways to set this watch. One is with the crown in the intermediate position, and this doesn't actually stop the seconds hand or move the minute or displace the 24-hour reference ring. So what you want to really do first is you want to line up. Let's see, it's 2 o'clock where I am, and that's 2 in the afternoon. I am in New York, so that would be right here. So now I want to go to 2 in the afternoon. Okay. Now you see how I'm lining up 14 with New York. Now, and keep in mind, this is where you're going to move the minute hand to. Now I can make sure that because I'm in New York, my center time correctly reflects 2 in the afternoon. So there we go. Now it is 1400 in New York. I can see that it's 2 a.m. in Bangkok, and although the cities don't move, I could see that it is 5 a.m. in Sydney. I can see that it is 7 o'clock in the evening in London. I can see that it is 10 in the morning in Anchorage, and that's how this works. We have a silver semicircle, which is the places where it's generally considered to be day, and then we have the blue one, places where it's generally considered to be night. If you're wondering what these little extensions mean, those little extensions reflect cities that use summer and winter time. You could see Saint-Barth does not. You could also see that Midway does not. So just keep in mind, when you're dealing with a winter or summer offset, you want to move between those little stars and the city proper. Also important, you may be wondering, well, what's going on here? Well, here you could see all those places that are GMT plus, and here you could see all these places that are GMT minus. That's why we have this division between red and blue. The center dial is extravagant. You can see applique indices here, but you can also see that the dial is cut from metal. It's a projection of the globe as seen from the North Pole. You can see we have this lovely little candy cane line running down the center, which travels through the prime meridian in England, and that's what that represents. Dial side fixing hardware a la F. Pigeon with screws on the dial fixing it to the movement. You can see we have a ring outboard with little application of luminescent material, and that it is photina both on the hands and on the inner bezel. And they may be wondering, why is that there? Well, that's one of the few legacies of the original 1958 watch. That watch featured radium-based lume that was placed on the inside, actually adhered to the inside of the plexiglass crystal. So when JLC decided to revive the Geophysic in 2014 with the tribute to Geophysic, they decided that it wouldn't be durable enough, or it wouldn't be viable, especially in service centers, to have lume permanently affixed to the underside of the crystal. So they moved it from the crystal to this inner bezel that effectively becomes a luminescent chapter ring. And I'll demonstrate that now. As you can see, it's a fully lumed dial, though you cannot see the seconds hand or the world time functions. Okay, getting a little bit closer, you can see that lacquer was also used to create the gradient shift from sort of silver blue at the center to very dark blue at the edge of the projection. And you can see as we move around that the projection is three-dimensional cut metal. It's a very good-looking watch. Taking a look at the JL logo, keep that in mind, because when we go to the case back, you'll find that the balance, if we can freeze it in the right place, the balance is actually non-annular, and each side of the balance, this is called the Gyro Lab balance because it was drawn as a lesson learned from the 2007 Master Compressor Extreme Lab 1. And so we have this yoke where each side of the balance is the JLC logo. This has a couple of advantages. One, the first priority here was to create a robust free-sprung architecture. So we have pairs of variable inertia screws that we can move in concert to change the timing. That allows for more precise timing than with a mobile stud index, and also greater shock resistance. JLC also trying to maximize the percentage of total mass of the balance in the rim, and then a feature that was apparently foremost in the minds of the Gyro-Lab balance designers, minimizing aerodynamic drag. You can see how the screws themselves are recessed into the balance, and it has sort of a streamlined teardrop leading edge on each side, because as you might assume, 28,800 vibrations per hour times 24 hours, the aerodynamic drag actually adds up to measurable time deviation, so minimizing that is important. Now, we've also got a full balance bridge and a free-sprung balance like the auto tractor caliber. This is a combination of things, the free-sprung balance and the full balance bridge, that we're used to seeing on really hardcore sports watches, and aside from the 975 and 976 auto tractor calibers, and then this 772 and the Geophysic True Seconds 770. We haven't seen that a lot on JLC watches. It is a 4 hertz beat rate. We do have automatic winding by a 22 karat mass back before JLC was pinching pennies on rotors. But we had ceramic bearings, unidirectional winding, and a 22 karat mass. Those 3 features in concert, making this a very efficient winding watch. The power reserve is only 40 hours, but keep in mind it's running both a deadbeat and a world time. You can see as we move around that it's got a combination of stripes on rotor as well as on bridges. We've got a mechanically applied but handsome bevel. We have both polished and fired blue screws, which are nice to see. We have engine turning on the base plate. We have satination on the wheels. It is a good looking movement. Now, a couple things to note. We're going to fire this back up. If you are particularly perceptive, you could see the underlying mechanism for the deadbeat second. The tension spring here, and then the release against the driving wheel. And so we have 4 hertz, 28,800 vibrations per hour, but then we also have 1 hertz. This is a cool watch, my friends. A watch built for a brief period of time, phenomenally distinctive, everyday durable and practical, with a movement never reprised on any subsequent Jaeger-LeCoultre. This is the true spirit of Le Sentier and La Grande Maison. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.